My dad was scapegoated when he was a child. He was scapegoated when he grew up. When I got older, my dad turned around and scapegoated me. Toxic, abusive families have to have a scapegoat. Here's why. If the children actually got together and shared their narrative about their abusive family, about their parents' crimes, in my dad's case, but in some other toxic families, just abuses, then imagine what it would do to the power structure. The parents would not have as much control. So they do a divide and conquer. They make the kids compete with each other. They sow discord and distrust and cause some children to feel like they're the favorite one and the other one's the scapegoat. So in my case, my sister was the favorite. I was a scapegoat. That doesn't mean that she fared any better than I did, by the way. It's just the template for an abusive family. Oftentimes, the favorite child actually suffers more because they can get emotionally incested and not really have any distance from the parent who supposedly thinks they're so great. As a scapegoat, I had a lot more autonomy because there was a lot of space. My father rejected me. When I was 19, he disowned me. As a scapegoat, I also created a lot of fodder for that. So in my dad's case, he was mean, violent, liked guns, rejected the evangelical church that he was raised in. That is how he got scapegoated for those things. Plus, he was obsessive about germs and wouldn't eat with the rest of the family. Did I mention he was a little bit mentally ill? The family scapegoated him for that because he was not performing the way the rest of the family was intended to perform. Now, the rest of the family was a pack of pedophiles, but they didn't seem to care about that. While a lot of my uncles should have been in prison, so, by the way, should have my dad. But that terrible family secret is not something that my grandparents cared about at all. It is not something that any of my aunts and uncles cared about. They conspired to keep those secrets. They excused. They would say, well, so-and-so did that terrible thing, but they've given their heart to the Lord now, so it's all forgiven. But my dad left the church, and that was the cardinal sin. In my case, I was the terrible child because I had a mouth on me. I did not allow the molestations to take place without complaining, without rebelling, without trying to get my father to stop doing what he was doing. That was enough to put me in the role of scapegoat. And I gave my parents so much fodder for that role as I got older. I took up smoking cigarettes. I left the religious cult that I was born into, the Worldwide Church of God. And then I became very promiscuous and got arrested a time or two. This is not their dream child. The entire family spoke ill of me. My father disowned me. And then as I got older, I became a sex worker. And that just added more fuel to the fire. Scapegoat, scapegoat, scapegoat. That is the role that I was put in. It's the role that I played. It's the role that my dad played so well. Interesting thing about once you have become the family scapegoat, there's a way in which you start to become a scapegoat in a lot of places. That happened for me when I got a job in a corporation that no longer exists, so I won't have to worry about them suing me. It was called Digital Equipment Corporation. I worked there for about a year and almost had a nervous breakdown because I was getting scapegoated by the entire floor, the whole department, which was insane because I had come in from another company with awards and accolades and being celebrated as an amazing secretary. So here I was in another company who had to have a scapegoat. I ended up going to see the company psychologist, not because I wanted to, but because as the scapegoated employee, I was sent there. And this woman said to me, but this time I was so close to a nervous breakdown, I was waiting for anybody to tell me what was wrong with me. She said, "There's nothing wrong with you. I want you to read this book. Go home and read this book." It was called The Addictive Organization. I'd never heard of such a thing. Turns out that entire companies can also function like an abusive, toxic family, and they also need a scapegoat. So how do you shake that identity? Well, part of it is just educating yourself to the dynamic of why a dysfunctional, toxic family or church or community or company needs to have a scapegoat. And it is always because they are wanting to maintain power, in doing that through a divide and conquer with the employees or the siblings or the rest of the family. We turn our attention to that scapegoat. They are the problem. There are no other problems in this family, community, church, company. So that allows a lot of toxic abuse and crimes to go unseen and unpunished. If you have been scapegoated in any capacity, I'd love for you to share in the comments below. This is all about us sharing our stories so that we don't have to carry the secrets in an atmosphere of shame. I am not the least bit ashamed of the fact that I was scapegoated. As a matter of fact, I take it almost as a point of pride, because I did leave this ridiculous, abusive, pedophilic cult that I was born into, and I rejected the pedophilia that my family engaged in. But you do see how they shifted that story. Maybe you'll have something similar, something where you became the bad guy, when in fact horrible things were happening in the family that nobody wanted to talk about. Please leave your comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe.